Hello, welcome to my channel. My name is Danielle Bird, and I haven't said my first and last name in so long that felt so weird to say. I'm a complex trauma recovery coach, and today we're gonna talk about something I think is really important for us to get into. Let me mirror or take off the mirroring of the video. There we go, so you can see the board as I do this. So I really want us to chat about, I'm gonna put it on the board first. We're gonna get into something that is very common for folks who are looking to recover from complex trauma. Maybe change the lighting a little bit here so you can see. We're gonna talk about self-esteem. This has been coming up quite a lot lately. Self-esteem. And so what happens, I did say that I'm a complex trauma recovery coach, right? Holy, Mercury is now retrograde, and I'm actually a Gemini sun, so I'm ruled by Mercury. So when she goes retrograde, when they go retrograde, it really influences me. Hello, welcome. So we're gonna talk about self-esteem. And hi McKenna, how are you doing, my love? So nice to see you here. I just actually voice noted you there like not too long ago. Okay, focusing. So self-esteem, this is something that is very common in people who come forward and are seeking recovery, right? Having a low self-esteem is usually one of the first signs of like, hey, something's off here, right? Like something doesn't feel right. And low self-esteem can show up in so many different ways. This can show up where we feel like we are super nervous all the time. We might be nervous and anxious. We might be paranoid even. We are fidgety. I think I said that right. We could experience, these are ways that it could show up for you. You could be experiencing lots of, I'm seeing a windshield wipers in my brain, but that's not exactly what I'm trying to say. Not slaying. Parkour. That's funny. Okay. Not slaying could be part of it, but so we experience a lot of emotional roller coaster, honestly. Emotional roller coaster when you are experiencing low self-esteem. Life feels like an emotional roller coaster. It really does. What these are lots of indications where you might feel very tense in your body, right? Like, what does your body feel like here? Tenseness, shallow breathing. I'll say nearsightedness as well. So nearsightedness in time and space. Time and space. After we break down kind of how it shows up as, how it could show up for you, we're gonna look into what to actually do with it here. Oh, hi Ryan, hope you're doing good as well. Thank you so much. Oh shoot. Okay. So the next piece here is really understanding what this is at the core, what these expressions are at the core, are being in, like, this is a hyperactive nervous system state where we're really revved up, right? We have so much energy that it's not pleasant energy, right? We're high energy, low pleasantness. This is hyperactivity, right? And this shows up with a lot of hypervigilance. What this means is that our observing principle to perceive and observe becomes ramped up. And so we begin to be so subjected to all of the minute shifts occurring within ourselves and the relationships that we are engaging with, or the space that we're in, and they're going to be laced in what I call fogs, because we're not feeling safe. We're in a hyperactive. Why is the commercial just so loud? 1 second. Okay, I'm back. Because we're in a hyperactive nervous system state and we're not actually feeling safe, we don't have that internal safety, the meaning making that we're going to be attributing to our heightened perception, right? We're talking about pattern recognition here. More often than not, because we're in a hyperactive nervous system state and we're not feeling safe, the meaning that we're going to be attributing to our hypervigilance, to what we're observing with our heightened perception, and the patterns that we're tying together will be fogs. We're going to meaning make fogs. And if you're not new here, you know that FOGS is an acronym that I kind of put together that encapsulates fear, of fearful meaning making, obligation that is very controlling, so perfectionism, right? Guilt-ridden or shame-induced. If we meaning make what we're experiencing within the hypervigilance of the concoction of what happens when you're experiencing low self-esteem relationally or just with yourself, meaning with yourself as in like you're relating to your inner world, is fear-based, obligatory, controlling, guilt-ridden or shame-induced. It's going to create and further solidify low self-esteem. It's going to further solidify that there's something going on that's wrong. Coexisting in nature. Is this part why I'm in isolation right now? Can't speak to anyone. This low self-esteem, is that what you're pointing on here, my love? Yes, yeah. Then I definitely encourage you to book a free consultation with me. It's completely free, and I can help you understand next steps to move through this, because you're not alone in this, and it is very destabilizing. And the next component, which thank you for being a great segue into that, is that it shows up. All of the stuff that I just put on the board that I now took off is showing us the different ways that having low self-esteem, maybe I should put that there, show up in a nervous system way, wrong side, where they actually lead us to do usually three things here. And that's either, because low self-esteem really shows up relationally. So we're looking at this through a relational lens. And so essentially, you're going to either do one of three things. So you're going to either hide, like you're saying. You're going to either cling or suffocate, basically. These are archetypal energy representations. Or you're going to both. You're going to oscillate between both. Oscillation. So these are relational patterns, right? These are along the integrative attachment theory is what we're kind of pointing at here. And what happens when we have low self-esteem is that we're going to show up in one of these three ways. And so if you're hiding, this is another way to say avoid it. Right? So you'll primarily have an avoidant attachment style. What brand of dry erase markers do I use? That's a great question. That's what these look like. Yes, okay. Right? And so clinging is the opposite, which is anxious attachment style. And then oscillation is what is called disorganized. It's also called fearful avoidant. Right? Because that's the anxious is really fearful, and then avoidant. So it's just the two combined. But you either you're either one of these three, right? If you have low self-esteem, you're either going to show up as one of these three, because having low self-esteem places you on the insecure attachment spectrum, right? Whether you're either securely attached or insecurely attached. And being insecurely attached, you're going to show up as avoidant, anxious, or as disorganized, which is the combination of both. But you're going to be either one of these. You're not going to be like a few of them. You're only either or, because you can either be avoidant or anxious. If you're both, you're this one, right? So you're one of the three there. And depending on which one you are, there's specific approaches to take to heal this, to be able to actually carve a secure attachment style. And this is what I do with my private clients. So if you feel like you're needing this, then definitely go click the link in my bio to get that free consultation, and I can support you through that. Coexisting in nature, which by the way is in the link in my bio or in the description for YouTube later. I think I fell into survival mode, I'm in hide. Absolutely. And it's very natural to move into survival mode if we have low self-esteem, because let's kind of break this down a little bit. What does it even mean to have low self-esteem? Esteem is another way to say belief, right? Belief of self. And so if we don't have a belief of ourselves, what we're saying is that we actually don't have an identity. So if you have experienced trauma in your life where it completely shifted your identity to a place where there wasn't resolution, so there was a lot of rupture without repair, then it is a natural progression that you would then have low self-esteem. Because think about identity as being this like vase. I'm not an artist. As a vase, right? That is shattered by trauma comes around, an experience. Well, I'm not going to do it like that because that's not a good explanation. Events come around that were overwhelmingly painful in sensation, and they impacted you, and there was not a repair to those ruptures. There wasn't enough resources to repair the ruptures, so then there was trauma, because trauma is not the event, it's what is stuck there, okay? And then what happens when that occurs is that the vase gets shattered and it's everywhere. And so now you're kind of looking at this shattering that's everywhere. And so, of course, when you don't feel whole, what's another way to say whole? I'm identified in self. I have low self-esteem. Because you're trying to locate yourself. I like to work very holistically, so mind, body, soul, or spirit. You're trying to locate yourself in time and space, and you're like not able to read that. It's like a coding that isn't in the right place anymore, because you don't come out of the womb with low self-esteem. I will always say this. You do not come out of the womb hating yourself. You don't come out of the womb with low self-esteem. It's actually in our nature to be whole. Right? Babies come out and they're just themselves. And so it's these experiences that were too much too soon with not enough resources, right? That create the trauma in our body that then shatter our sense of identity, right? Our sense of self is what we're saying when we say low self-esteem or self-esteem. We're saying sense of self. My gnosis of I, like of I am, right? And so it's natural and normal and not something that is wrong with you that you've developed, right? Low self-esteem. It's actually a natural progression of holding that trauma in the subconscious and unconscious in the body, right? I like to think of the nervous system as the unconscious and then the body as the subconscious, if you will, because it is, the body keeps the score. It's in our bodies, but it's not just in the tissue in our cellular membrane. What is at the core of it is these woundings related to beliefs of self, right? Low self-esteem is really the events that created the internalization of the low self-esteem were then placed as a meaning attributing of the self or a defect of the self, right? There's a lot of shame, right? Remember I said the fogs. Whenever you have the fogs as a meaning making, especially attributed to yourself, it's going to create more stuckness, right? Trauma is stuckness, essentially. It's stuckness, exactly. And so what it creates then is that you land on one of these three, and one of these three, they hold specific unprocessed, wounded beliefs of the self. They all have specific like patterns and mosaics. That's why they're classified in kind of different spectrums that can be very predictable to move through, right? And if you feel like you're ready to move through that, then I definitely invite you to book a free consultation. I can support you in doing that, because really what it is at the core of this, the core of all of this, is the identification of self. What are the wounded beliefs of self that are underneath this meaning making, right? The meaning making that is fearful, obligatory, controlling, guilt-ridden, or shame-induced. This is like a smoke and mirrors. It's not true, right? And so we're experiencing events in our waking life that trigger up the release of these unprocessed primary emotions, because it's not true. Because our body and our mind systems are actually highly intelligent, and they are working continuously day in, day out to get you back to that core identification. But when triggers occur and we don't have the skills to be able to emotionally regulate and to respond in a way that doesn't induce more flashbacks through the meaning making of fogs, then we further create stuckness. So that's why it's really important to understand the primary skills of emotional regulation and nervous system regulation. Which, by the way, if you want to figure out how to do that, I actually have a free quiz in my bio on nervous system regulation that you can go get right now and try that out to understand, because nervous system regulation isn't just about applying tools and techniques. You have to regulate in the right direction. And so that quiz will show you how to do that. But yeah, it's all about the processing of the unprocessed primary emotion that's created in the stuckness, and then really bringing that into wholeness through shifting the meaning making that is attributed to the loss of self, and grieving, right? The real events that happened. Grieving is really important as well. But it's definitely important to have support as you're doing that, because a lot of these events were traumatic, right? So it's difficult to hold space for yourself in that way. So if you feel ready to be able to move through that, then definitely book a free consultation with me through the link in my bio or in the description on YouTube. I love you so much. And I hope that this was supportive in bringing some clarity of what low self-esteem really is at the core and how to move through that. Mwah! Take care, everyone.